Welcome everybody to our Sunday night fun with Global Strangeness. We are, of course, three strangers brought together with the love of everything creepy, weird, and scary. So myself, Debra, Scott, and Jeremy. And this week, I think it was Scott, right? This was your idea. We are going to be talking about...
No, this is Jeremy.
Oh, is it Jeremy? Sorry. So we're talking about urban legends. And I was really excited actually because there was a couple that I remember hearing when I was a kid. Like it totally was going around. It was somebody's, boyfriend had a cousin who knew a girl in school that this happened to. You know how they go. And so two of them were like, yeah, it was a thing going around when I was in school. How about you guys?
Yeah, we had a couple too.
Not really. It wasn't really a thing where I grew up.
Really? You had no urban legends, dude?
What?
Not that.
Like you're in an older part of town.
I mean, I grew up in the suburbs. Like it was a newer suburb, but like there was no urban legends. It was just no. I mean, I read them in like scary stories, tell in the dark and stuff like that. But we didn't have any that were passed around or anything.
Come on, they were hanging witches where you lived. Give me a break. Like my shit was at the max 100 years old.
I grew up in New York, Scott.
Okay, New York. Thanks, New York.
Lives, serial killers to worry about. Never mind urban legends. So,
one of the original 13 colonies, dude. Like your shit's got to be older than Debra.
No, I grew up in the suburbs. There was nothing. Like there was no urban legends being passed around in my neighborhood.
God, that's when you start one. Come on.
Yeah, shit.
Story. Yeah. So who wants to go first?
Well, you always go first.
Ladies first is lovely. Okay, well, of the ones that I found, I got really excited. So there's two, and these are the two that I remember really going around. Probably the one that I heard about all the time. It was always, and it didn't matter, what province you're in or whatever. This story was like sort of prevalent, but so it's called it's the boyfriend's death one, and so basically with this one, it's like a girl and a guy and they're out on a road. There's so many versions of it. So there is quite a few different versions, but it's a girl and a guy and they're out on a country road and something happens with their car. And so, or they run out of gas. And so the boyfriend goes in search of gasoline and the girl ends up being rescued by the police and they caution her like, he's taking a long time and the police show up and they're like, don't turn around, whatever you do. And then when she does, she sees her boyfriend's lifeless body hanging from a tree branch above the car. And the whole time she's been in there, she's been hearing a tapping on the car that's been making her scared or whatever. So the earliest story that it was documented, I guess, is in 1964 from a freshman at the University of Kansas. And I can't believe you said you didn't hear about this because everybody's heard this one. But anyways, here's an example. And there's like 5 different examples here. But 2 students go out to neck in a car. So they're on an isolated country road. And afterwards, the car wouldn't start. So the girlfriend got spooked. And the boyfriend said he would walk for help. But first suggested that she get down on the floor of the car in the back and like put a blanket over her so no one would see her. And told her not to get out of the car until he returned, no matter what she heard. And then he walked off, so she's safe and he's going to get help. And so he doesn't return. And then she hears this tap, tap, tap on the top of the car. And she's getting more and more panicky and scared, but she doesn't want to get out. She's really, she's safe under her blanket and she's just listening to this tapping sound. And then finally, as it gets to be daylight, she hears somebody walking up to the car and a guy's voice calls out, is anyone in there? And it's the local sheriff. And she peeks out and he's like, whatever you do, as he gets her out of the car, he's like, whatever you do, do not look back at the car. And at the last minute, she's getting into the sheriff's car. She looks back and she sees her boyfriend's head impaled on the CB antenna. Dripping blood into the car. So he was in the front seat.
Damn, that's a strong antenna there.
I know, and there's like so many different versions of this, but another one is where she's hearing that tapping, but he's actually hanging from the tree and it's his body tapping. And yeah, so that is my favorite one. I've heard so many versions of that. Have you guys heard of that one at all?
I think I've seen it on like something similar on a TV show. I haven't heard it though. Like, and it
Yeah.
wasn't exactly the same. It was like similar.
Right. Okay, so I'm going to switch things up. I'm going to let one of you guys tell one of yours because my laptop's about to go dead here. So I'm going to run off for 2 seconds and be right back, okay?
All right.
Jeremy?
So sorry, you guys. I'll be right back.
I could do one of mine because I was looking up one. I got some short ones. 'Cause I was looking at a list of the best urban legend in every state. So, but
Which there were probably a few in your state, huh?
no, it was one per state. But I mean, the one in Alaska intrigued me. So, the Kushtaka, the Alaskan Triangle. The Alaskan Triangle is like the Bermuda Triangle. On average, 5 out of every 1,000 people go missing in Alaska, according to the LA Times. So even if there's nothing supernatural going on, it's easy to get lost and die in the wilderness. The Tlingit tribe who live in Juneau, have their own explanation for the high number of missing people. Evil spirits called the Kushtaka, which are shapeshifters who are half man, half otter, who lure women and children to the water with fake cries in order to steal their human spirits and drown them. So you want to get drowned in Alaska, Scott?
Not particularly. Utah's a little too cold for me, so.
Yeah, I mean, could be real. Alaska's creepy.
New York's fucking creepy, dude. Give me a break. Like, this is one of the 13 original colonies. Bunch of podunk hillbillies in Alaska at that time.
There were a lot of podunk hillbillies in New York too at certain points.
Yeah, no, exactly. But then you had colonizers too, killing Indians. Probably all sorts of scary urban legend shit going on.
I mean, not really. I mean, and I grew up outside Kingston, like the original capital of New York. Like, and still, even in high school and stuff, you never heard any urban legends in Kingston.
That's crazy to me because, like, we even had the story of the haunted Jack in the Box bathroom when I went to school. Like, you didn't have one? Come on.
Not that I can recall, but I mean, hold on. I'm Google searching this shit.
What about like Bloody Mary, like the one everybody's heard about?
Oh, everybody knows Bloody Mary, but I mean, okay, apparently there are history trails and that are haunted, there are ghost stories. But no, there's no urban legends in Kingston, New York, according to Google.
Nonsense.
No, I mean,
dude, I grew up like they had created my town and only been around for like 50 years. There were like 5 of them.
Well, the thing I find with a lot of these is it's like everywhere has the same story.
Yes.
It kind of travels to like wherever, right?
I mean, we heard the freaking we heard Bloody Mary, we heard like the poison candy thing, like we heard like all the national, we heard some of the national ones and like global ones, but
yeah,
we never heard, there was no local like specific place, like it was the suburbs, it was just houses, there was no abandoned houses even or abandoned buildings, like it was just the suburbs.
You should have had some like Blair Witch style shit going on, dude.
No, the woods by our house, there's even a cemetery down the road, but nothing creepy ever happened there as far as I know.
I'm trying to think if there was any like really local, like to the town I grew up in, if there was,
I mean, trust me, where I grew up was kind of boring.
Our shit was ridiculous and it was stolen from everywhere else in the world, but we had them. And then we did have a Manson house. I didn't bring that up in my research, but we did have the Manson house. So
yeah, there's got to be tales getting spun around that, right? Like,
oh yeah, for sure. And tales get warped when everyone's on mushrooms. So
it's like fishing stories. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, exactly.
So Debra, What urban legends did you have besides the first one?
Well, besides the boyfriend's death, which frankly is my favorite. There was also another one, and this one I also remember going around, people talking about. So it's somebody's older sister or cousin or whatever went to college, and this happened at whatever college, and so literally every college you ever hear of. But so it's the one where and again, there's so many versions of it, but supposedly, at another college in another state far, far away, someone knows someone who was there. And a girl was studying late and went back to the dorm room to grab some of her notes. And her roommate's in there sleeping, so she didn't want to disturb her roommate, so she didn't turn the lights on when she just snuck in and grabbed all her books and grabbed all her stuff. And then later, when she goes back to the room, she finds her roommate's dead, and there's a note written in lipstick on the mirror, and it said, "Aren't you glad you didn't turn on the lights?" So, and lots of versions. Sometimes the person comes in looking for a sweater instead of books, or she's been at a party instead of the library, and she stops into, the roommate's sick, so she's just checking to see if it's, take a peek and make sure the roommate's okay. And, again, like there's so many different versions. I've heard this so many different ways, so many different times. And sometimes the girlfriend has, her throat, or the roommate has her throat, slit, and it kind of ties in with the Humans Can Lick 2 story. It comes close. Sometimes there's a dog in there too. So, yeah.
So how does it compare to the Humans Can Lick 2 story?
Well, because sometimes it's a dog who's she discovers the dog hanging in the bathroom, and it's blood from its slashed throat is dripping onto the tiles, and that's the noise that wakes her up or whatever. So she goes back to bed and she wakes up, and anyways, it's the dog. So it kind of ties in with that one because there's versions that involve the dog instead of a roommate.
Yeah, which it sounds like Joe one was like invented first, like stole from then they either the Humans Can Lick got evolved out of that story, or they
give me a second.
Or they stole it from the Human Can Lick story if they were doing that. So I'm not sure. It definitely. But since you brought that up, maybe I should do the Humans Can Lick story.
Sure, segue right into that.
Since Scott sick in Pittsburgh anyway. But where is it? No. Oh, that's it. So the licked hand can also be known as the doggy lick or Humans Can Lick 2. It was found in print as early as 1982. A very young girl is home alone for the first time with only her dog for company. Listening to the news, she hears of a killer on the loose in her neighborhood. Terrified, she locks all the doors and windows but forgets about the basement window, and it is left unlocked. She goes to bed, taking her dog to her room with her and laying asleep under her bed. Which, if my dog actually slept underneath my bed, that'd be the coolest trick in the world. But I don't think dogs actually do that usually.
I had a dog that did. He used to always sleep under the bed.
But she wakes in the night to hear a dripping sound come from the bathroom. It frightens her, but she's too scared to get out of the bed and find out what it is. She to reassure herself, she reaches a hand toward the floor for the dog and was rewarded by a reassuring lick on her hand. The next morning when she wakes, she goes to the bathroom for a drink of water, only to find her dead, mutilated dog hanging in the shower with his blood, slowly dripping onto the tiles, and my dog's barked just as I said that.
He doesn't
check the shower.
On the shower wall, written in dog's blood, are the words "Humans Can Lick 2." Other variations featured a nearsighted old woman rather than a young girl. The fate of the dog also varies, from the dog simply being hanged to it being skinned, disemboweled, or otherwise mutilated.
Yeah, that sounds a little better. I like that one.
That's terrible.
That's horrible. That's like that freaking. That's like that freaking Stephen King movie, Needful Things. Like that scene, even at my age, is just like, what the fuck. The message is sometimes written on the floor or on the bathroom mirror rather than on the wall. Some versions include the parent return and the discovery of the killer hiding elsewhere in the house, frequently in the basement, the girl's bedroom closet, or under her bed. In other versions, the girl's parents arrive back in the morning and ask if their daughter had a good night. When she tells them that her dog kept her calm by licking her hand, she is told that the dog in question had been either locked has been locked either in the basement or outside. The story usually either ends with the killer never being found and or the girl dying. So we segued into that, Scott, since she was talking about the Lick and Hand story anyway. So
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
no.
do merge together a little bit, these two stories.
they do kind of merge, but like Lick and Hand, it says it's been print since February 1982. So I don't know how long yours has been around for, but
Yeah, no, I'm sorry I had to step away. Family member called. Nobody's dead though. We are good to go. Be a call back later.
well, Debra, do you have any more or no?
Well, and other than that, so one thing I wanted to bring up, and it's not really urban legend, but everybody's heard of them. And so I thought it was kind of funny, but chain letters everybody's been around. Have either of you ever received one, or just, I know.
Oh,
on
I
Facebook
remember it
but
when
do
I
you
was a
remember like the
kid.
handwritten ones? Like,
Yeah. No, it was cool, but like the kids that are watching now, think of it as a chain email, except you couldn't copy paste or like
right.
send to a email list you bought on the internet.
And there's
Kids
something
see-
more threatening about handwritten, like you have to, forward this to 7 people, or someone in your family will die within 2 weeks or whatever, right? Like there's
Mhm.
something about the handwritten thing. And yeah,
Who you-
and so it started out as fundraisers, right? But then
who you kidding, Scott? Kids today wouldn't even know what chain email is.
I know,
Well,
right?
it's crazy because they were like pretty prevalent. You got a couple a year, and these
Yeah.
people actually had to like pay for stamps. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if you paid for an email list or you paid for like followers, it would be the same thing. But
Yeah, and there's always stories about the person, like sometimes they had money and then somebody would become rich and then somebody else threw theirs away and their aunt died 2 days later. Like it was pretty threatening. Like somebody was going down if you didn't follow the instructions.
I
There's
always-
lots of stories about it. And you know what it reminds me of nowadays on Facebook? When somebody posts that, like, if you don't copy and paste this, I know who my friends are, because they're trying to make you.
yeah, but they didn't pay the 25 cents postage at the time. So it's
Yeah,
like
right.
less. Like I do remember we were talking before the show, like when they would send the dollar.
Yeah.
And then that made it seem pretty significant, right? Like if you send each of your friends $1, like 5 of your friends $1, and send me $1, then you'll fucking become rich or whatever. But like it was a good scam. I liked
Right?
it.
Yeah, and it started out as like actual fundraising / scamming, basically, or whatever, but for legitimate kind of organizations and stuff. But basically, it was just a big marketing scam thing. But there's one famous story about this kid, and so in 1989, this family of a 7-year-old English boy named Craig Shergold asked that people around the world send him get well cards because he was sick. He had a brain tumor. And doctors thought he was going to die, so he wanted all these cards. And so his family wanted to help him set a get well card world record. And he not only received millions of cards, but set the record. But then he had an operation in his brain, and he's doing fine. And the requests for cards still show up. This chain thing is still going around, and on the internet. And even though he's like now in his 20s, and he wants the letters to stop because he gets as many as 10,000 a day. Because it's still going.
That's cool.
That's hilarious. Yeah.
No, I saw this there was an autistic kid on TikTok that wanted letters in the same not in the same way, but like we sent him letters, but like this dude will just like he's autistic to a pretty high degree. So like when he gets these letters, he's like super psyched out. I wish I had his fucking name so I could post him, but he's like, he loves getting these letters from random people and like drawing pictures and shit.
So that's really cool because it's kind of filled. But
Yeah.
same with this kid, it started out as people be nice, but I thought I'd throw the chain letters in because, like urban legend, people bought into the superstition that bad luck would come of it, which a lot of urban legends are about consequences if you don't
Yeah.
follow whatever. And apparently a lot of people have died because somebody didn't mail their letter.
I mean, a lot of them are just made by parents though, to like scare their kids into staying inside.
Well, don't you think a lot of urban legends seem to go around kids making out in cars and stuff? That's got to be parents, right? Like, the hook guy, and the boyfriend one, like they just have cars on, isolated roads.
I mean, parents, that nosy old lady, the Karens of the world in the 1950s.
Maybe it's Planned Parenthood. Supporting these things.
I don't think it would be Planned Parenthood because they want your kids to not make it, right? It would probably be some like Christian group.
Right.
Yeah. Like, hey, don't do that.
Yeah. That's what I think it is. So, and then the last thing that I thought was kind of interesting, and it's a big, long story, but have you guys heard of Dudleytown? Because it's in the States.
I haven't, no.
I heard of it, yeah. I've heard of it before.
How close is it to your house, Jeremy?
No, I'm pretty sure it's on the other side of the country, but I'm not exactly sure what states. I'm not exactly sure what states.
It's in Connecticut.
All right,
closer to Jeremy.
It is, but
it would be a great place to actually visit. So this town, Dudleytown or whatever, it's apparently plagued by ghosts and demons and residents who vanished without a trace. And all these events were said to be caused by a curse, which was brought by the Dudley family to the New World. So
hold up, the Dudleytown ape? Did you say the Dudleytown ape?
No, the family.
Oh, okay. Dudleytown family. I gotcha.
Yeah, so all that's left in the town now is like cellar holes and like foundation stones and whatever. And it's like it's real ghost town. Like it's deserted. There's hardly, the buildings are all, hardly there anymore or whatever. But there's still a ton of people go and visit this place because apparently there's a lot of sightings, a lot of paranormal stuff. And also apparently if you take anything from the site, then bad things happen to you like within a week or whatever. There's a whole story around it. And so it all started in 1510. Edmund Dudley was beheaded for being involved in a plot to overthrow King Henry VIII. So this started a long time ago. And then apparently a curse
they went out like 2 hours ago.
And then
mute up, Jeremy. Mute up, Jeremy.
I wasn't muted? What the hell?
No, you weren't.
My bad.
And then his son, Edmund's son, John Dudley, also attempted to control the British throne, and he arranged for his son Guildford to marry Lady Jane Grey, next in line for the crown. And after Edward VI died, Lady Jane became queen for a short time, and before the plan failed, ending with the execution of her and the two Dudleys. And then there was a bunch of more, Dudley family travesties or whatever. And so then when they came to the States, they brought all this bad luck with them. And so in the early 1740s, they, bought this piece of land that would later be turned into the first lot in Dudleytown or whatever. And it's covered, it's really thick forest all around it, and it's got rocks and lots of mountains, and it's really kind of dense and like you'd see in a scary movie kind of thing. And so it was not really a big town, but it thrived a bit. It was okay for a while. And then there was everything from like suicides and I don't know, people were disappearing and they couldn't find them. So it's a small town and people would just disappear and they could never find them. People were going crazy. And there was kind of weird deaths and all this stuff was happening in this isolated area with just these people, just this small little town or whatever going on there. So they started thinking that it was, the
I clicked it twice to make sure it said
they
mute
thought
on.
that the whole first
Jeremy, hold up a sec, Debra. Jeremy, you're still like coming in, dude.
I don't know how. Like it literally said mute on.
Do the thingamabobber. I don't know if Debra can hear it, but like your shit came over hers.
Well, long story short, Dudleytown's a crazy town where everyone died, vanished, and went insane, vanished, or committed suicide, and eventually by the 1900s, Dudleytown was completely deserted, and the remaining homes began to fall into disrepair and ruin, and the forest took over because again there was such thick forest all around it, and so that's when it became kind of a ghost town, and people started going there when they come into Dudleytown. They'd start having terrible things happen to them. They'd encounter paranormal stuff and scary experiences, and a couple of people, took things home, and then they had a terrible death soon after. And so the rumors started to go around. And so now people, they like to go there because it is I couldn't find where there's a lot of actual firsthand accounts of the paranormal stuff that happens, but it is actually guarded by some people because there's so many people trying to go there and do investigations and stuff. So
did we do that on one of our episodes? That sounds familiar. I don't know if I saw it on a YouTube or if
I don't think we have. No.
Okay.
No, I'm pretty sure we haven't, but it sounds like a Robert the Doll type thing where like you take, or like a Hawaiian thing where like you take rocks back with you and then you get cursed.
That's exactly what I was thinking of. Like you have to follow the rules while at this town, or something bad's going to happen to you because it's haunted and there's these entities there. So, but yeah, I thought it was kind of cool that it dated back to Henry VIII, who the curse originally came that far. So yeah. Anyways.
Well, actually, Scott, maybe that's why you're thinking we've done it before, is because it's similar to Robert the Doll.
Well, no, I listened to all of our original. How long have we been doing this shit? It's probably close to 6 months now, huh?
Yeah, it's been
there's a
close to-
puppy.
Yeah, they need to go out. Yeah,
I
it's
wish
been
I had a puppy.
it's been like 6 months, yeah, since we started doing this. I think probably, yeah.
At least, I think, yeah.
Yeah, shit, dude. It's probably my mind fucking up. I probably heard it. I don't know. So who won the bracket?
For what? Which one?
The last bracket we did that started this, dude.
I thought it wasn't beer 30 yet at that point, but Urban. Who did win?
I think it was Cactus Cat, right?
No, it wasn't Cactus Cat, Scott. Come on now. Cactus Cat was in the Fearsome Critters bracket. Not
I
that
know
bracket.
Homie the Clown
No, Homie
got
the Clown.
second
That's what you want.
place, bitches.
Unbelievable.
No, actually, Homie the Clown got third place.
What?
Robert Johnson won first place.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
And
It was a fixed game.
And Licked Hand won second. Because Licked Hand is creepy as shit.
Yeah.
Well,
the town
Debra
is
did
good.
kind of a licked hand type scenario, right?
Yeah, but so so Robert Johnson won because he sold his soul to the devil to be able to play the blues.
So what makes an actual urban legend, though?
Just a tale that gets told over and over again, I guess, that has some kind of weird or horror element to it.
I just feel like it's so Dudleytown obviously is a little bit different because I feel like it's a tale that you hear in a whole bunch of different regions, but everybody thinks it's their own tale.
That's how all my urban legends were. It's you could find them anywhere else.
According to Google, an urban legend is a genre of folklore comprising fallacious claims or stories circulated as true, especially as having happened to a friend of a friend or a family member, often with horrifying, humorous, or cautionary elements.
So I'm going to read you guys the screenplay to I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Oh, God, no. So is that all your urban legends, Debra? Or
that is it. I am through with Dudleytown.
you want to go next, Scott, or me?
I'll play you rock, paper, scissors for it. Best 2 out of 3.
Yeah, you really want people to sit here and watch this?
Abso-fucking-lutely.
We down. Let's go.
1. Oh, well, hold up. There's a delay here. 1, 2. This ain't gonna work. You go first.
Yeah, thank Jesus, man. Well, I already did my Alaska one, so I'll do my Idaho one because this one I've heard before and it's interesting. The water babies of Massacre Rocks are a Native American legend that are found in a couple different places in America, but most famously in Pocatello at the Massacre Rock State Park. The Shoshone tribe was first recorded in 1805 and were roaming the Great Plains as early as the 1500s. So it's not clear when this legend began. Story goes that the Shoshone experienced an extreme famine and mothers were forced to drown their babies in the river rather than watch their children starve. Today, some people claim that if you sit quietly at the river by Massacre Rocks, you'll hear the sounds of babies crying. Other stories say that these babies grew gills and fins and survived, and now they seek revenge on their mothers by luring unsuspecting victims to their deaths in the river. So, I mean, I don't know if it's true about the babies being drowned, but that's just freaking horrible. You can't spare a little bit of food just to keep your kid alive? Like,
pretty depressing.
Like,
what are you drinking there? It looks like you're drinking liquor in a water bottle.
Crystal Light, man. My wife don't let me drink. Come on now.
Well, tell her it's good for the podcast. Come on now.
we're gonna have a talk soon. But and then I did get one in my state, Scott, because you know I had to, and because I knew you would say something if I didn't. So the one, and this is actually only about an hour and 24 minutes away from me towards New York, but the Hoosac Tunnel, which was constructed for 24 years in western Massachusetts, kind of like right outside Springfield area, in between Springfield and Albany. Approximately 200 men died while building these tunnels. Death was so associated with the tunnel that it was actually nicknamed the Bloody Pit. After a particularly gruesome explosion in either 1867 or 1868, 13 miners were trapped inside the tunnel. The other workers assumed that the miners had died, but eventually it was discovered that the miners had lived, built a raft to combat flooding, and eventually died due to poisonous gas inhalation. It said that at least 13 miners haunted the tunnel for years, moaning and briefly appearing as ghosts. But yeah, I'm good at checking that out, but I'm just saying, but it's just, man.
Are they still haunting the tunnels as ghosts, or?
I would presume. I mean, if you Google map it, it tells you where one of the entry points is to the tunnel.
That'd be cool to check out.
See, I don't want these things following me home. I already have a haunted house. I don't need more stuff.
Thank you. I gotta piss. I'll be right back.
But you're gonna miss the Baby Train, Scott.
Baby Train. I rewatch these episodes, dude.
True. Well, it's a long one, so I'll be back anyway. But Baby Train is an urban legend told in the United States, United Kingdom, and Australia. It first appeared in Christopher Morley's 1939 novel Kitty Foyle. According to the legend, a certain small town had an unusually high birth rate. This was allegedly caused by a freight train passing through the town and blowing its whistle, waking up all its residents. Since it was too late to go back to sleep and too early to get up, couples would have sex. This resulted in a mini baby boom. One version of the myth, as written down by the Australian author and folklorist Bill Scott in The Long and the Short and the Tall, a collection of Australian yarns, tells the story of a little town on the coast, not too far north of Sydney, where the birth rate was 3 times the average for all the rest of Australia. It was so unusual, the government sent someone out to the town to investigate the cause of the high birth rate. When the official arrived, he found children everywhere he looked. Even the local school had those temporary classrooms all over the place to fit them in, and they had a special maternity wing at the local hospital. The man was mystified for a while. The people there did not seem different from people in other small towns, so he couldn't understand why they got 3 times as many children. After a few nights in the town, the man figured it out. The particular town was right by the main railway line. The train was delivering mail right past town and thus blew its whistle when it stopped. said it was too early to get up and it was to go back to sleep again. The adults had to find something to do in bed while waiting. This then led to very high birth rates. Other versions of the myth vary. Sometimes the small towns in America or England, and one version tells of a noisy foghorn rather than a train whistle. Similar myths and actual events. The story is related to the rumor that birth rates spiked 9 months after the Northeast blackout of 1965. The actual birth rate increased in Boston after February 1969 nor'easter, September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks, and other natural disasters and similar events. It is based on the premise that when regular life is disrupted, adults will resort to sex as occupation without regard for family planning or protection. So basically, it's just a myth. I mean, basically, it's just fact that if there's a reason to do nothing, adults are going to just have sex for the fun of it. I mean,
that's very believable. Not really. Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
must be nice to not have kids that annoy the crap out of you then. So, because I never would have time, but.
Well, they will have kids.
Some of them.
But I believe that even, of the 9/11 or whatever, people, what do you think about COVID then? Everybody's at home for how long?
Nope, I'm sorry.
COVID did increase birth rates greatly.
Right? Because, what else are you doing?
Everybody I knew on Facebook was having babies 9 months to a year and a half after COVID started.
Yeah, I see the actual stats on that.
I heard that made some people sterile myself. I have no friends who had babies in the past 2 years. So
I mean, I've heard that the vaccinations supposedly made males sterile, but
yeah, I've heard all that. But I just meant cooped up at home with stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean they definitely. I mean, yeah.
I heard it put a lot of relationships to the end.
That's true. Maybe there was less sex going on.
Yeah.
Think about it this way: it was also kids home 24/7.
That's true too. Yeah,
it led to a lot of suicides and family murders too. I'm pretty sure, but
yeah, it's pretty sad. Yeah.
Did you guys even fucking I had to go to work 2 jobs every day during the entire of COVID. So
I had to work. We were essential services.
There's a lot of essential people, right? Well, I guess you weren't.
I got laid off from my job right when they gave the mandatory if you're not essential, you're staying home type shit in March of 2020, and then I was unemployed till August.
My jobs weren't even that essential, so I don't know why I didn't get the extra special.
Well, we were our sales. Our sales were also going down dramatically once COVID started because nobody was working in offices anymore. So we got laid off, and then I ended up losing my job because I was the highest paid person in the freaking building. So I ended up losing my damn job, and because they couldn't afford to bring me back with how low sales were.
And I think that probably happened quite a bit, right? And do you think that a lot of businesses never go back to bricks and mortar after?
A lot of private, a lot of small mom and pop businesses never go back ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah, and that's why our company lost sales, because we sold computer and server parts to companies mainly, on eBay. So we lost so many sales that couldn't afford to pay me my nice hourly rate anymore. So I had to
FanCon's doing pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
They bought half the houses that were on the market during the whole COVID shit, but different episode, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, Scott. Doing a test really fast. Can you hear me?
Yes.
What the fuck? It doesn't make sense. These must be charging because it literally says mute on when I press the button, and then you can still hear me. It doesn't make sense.
So quit talking about us. We can hear you.
Yeah, you and your wife were like, "Fuck Debra and Scott. I hate them."
No, more
straight up.
More like arguing over who's taking the dogs out. But
well, unless your dogs are named Debra and Scott.
They are
That's
not.
debatable.
They are not, because they are Munchkin and Moose. And they're going to be meeting, so I wouldn't want to name them Deborah and Scott, so because that would
I
make things
thought those were our nicknames that you gave us.
Are you calling yourself Moose?
No, I'm Munchkin.
I'm pretty sure Deborah would be Munchkin if anything, but
I could be Moose. I'm tough. I'm big.
When
scary.
I remember when we were on that last bracket, because how tall are you, Deborah?
I'm over 5 feet. Okay, I'm not a little person. So
I remember when we were doing that bracket, that girl was like, "I'm only 5'4".
yeah.
Didn't say
And I kept
anything.
quiet. I don't know
Didn't
if you
say
noticed,
anything.
I didn't say a word. I'm like, nope.
What, Tori? Yeah, she was she's officially a midget. So
Towers over Deborah.
but yeah. All right, I got one last one, and it's a classic.
Okay.
The Babysitter and the Man Upstairs, also known as the Babysitter or the Sitter, is an urban legend that dates back to the 60s about a teenage girl babysitting children who receives telephone calls from a stalker who continually asks her to check the children. The basic storyline has been adapted a number of times in movies. The 1950 murder of teenage babysitter Jeanette Christman, whatever, how you pronounce it, is commonly cited as a source of the legend. It details a teenage girl who's watching television at night while babysitting after the children have been put to bed upstairs. The phone rings, the unknown caller tells her to check the children. The girl dismisses the call, but the anonymous caller dials back several times, and the girl becomes increasingly frightened. Eventually, she calls the police, who inform her they will trace the next call. After the stranger calls again, the police return her call, advising her to leave immediately. She evacuates the home, and the police meet her to explain the calls were coming from inside the house and that the identified prowler was calling her after killing the children upstairs. So, I mean, and this is also a similar story to the clown statue story, where a babysitter is checking out the family she's babysitting for house after they go to bed, after the kids go to bed, and the parents call to check on the kids, and she tells them how much she loves the new clown statue and how creepy it is that's in their bedroom. And the father says, "We don't have a clown statue." In which that story, the babysitter is usually found dead, and the children too, or the children are missing.
That one got knocked off pretty quick for the bracket, huh?
And I don't know why, because it's like clowns are scary by themselves, and then a killer clown in the house.
It
like,
went up against Cactus Cat. Come on now.
No.
He's got his notebook.
He's got his notes saying. Like,
Oh, actually, it beat off Killer in the Backseat. It beat off Owlman.
Really? Killer in the Backseat and Owlman? Like,
yeah, it beat off all those. It lost to Zombie Road in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, of course. Zombie Road. That's just.
It lost to Tweaker Way, Scott, as you were saying.
That should have been second, other than Homie D Clown.
Homie the Clown was third.
Well, it should have been number one. And we should just be watching In Living Color on the next episode.
That whole thing.
Well, the next episode is your decision, Scott, but it's also your turn to give your stories.
Well, as it will be my decision next turn, and it is my urban legend, I will put it up against Homie D Clown. I'd like to start this off with one of the biggest urban legends in the world. So in the 60s, the US government started this company called NASA. It was probably started before then, but they apparently sent people to the moon in the Apollo program. And then when they came back into our atmosphere, they were going 31 times the speed of sound. So that's urban legend number one. You guys take that how you want to take that.
Only you, Scott, only you.
That is an urban legend, dude. That 110% is a fucking well-funded urban legend.
Oh, Scott.
Okay, I'm gonna get into mine. Let me pack a dipski. Okay. So the first urban legend I did was actually one that I grew up with growing up in my town that had been populated for maybe 50 to 70 years, Jeremy. There were no witch trials where I was at. But when I was growing up, it was called the Haunted Ponds, which what the legend dated back prior to like my wife's parents' age. My parents didn't grow up where I grew up, but it dated way back. And the Haunted Ponds story went that there was this
When he
road.
can't hold it.
Yeah, he could hold it real good. There was a road that was
My finger-
crossed by train tracks. Go
My
for it.
finger hit the unmute. My finger hit the unmute button at inopportune time there.
So basically, there's this road that goes over some train tracks, and it's next to this pond. And the story goes, wherever I went, if you put the car in neutral on top of the train tracks, and then you put baby powder on the back of the car, you would see a bunch of children's handprints as you were pushed over the train tracks. And I didn't find out until years later, that a bunch of people had the same fucking story in every one of these towns. And this was actually the first episode I wanted to do when we all voted on our own story for the first episode of this show. But I found out later that the haunted ponds, I used to think they were on the east side of our town. They were actually the bottomless ponds. So that same story I told you where there were sharks that fucking people saw sharks in the pond.
Oh, yeah.
And the school bus went over, never found. Scuba divers went down and they never came back up. So I looked into it a little while ago. I couldn't find any newspaper articles. I searched the internet. I searched the Library of Congress. And then I found out it was just a bunch of fucking like generic folklore. So
Were you crushed?
I was kind of crushed, man. I thought that was like our AV Pride fucking folklore. But yeah, no, I couldn't find any articles. So then I started searching in the Library of Congress for school buses that had crashed in a lake, river, or pond. And I couldn't really fucking find anything. But I did find a story of a bus driver who drove off into a blizzard and 5 children ended up dead in Towner, Colorado in 1931. They were nowhere near a train track, nowhere near a fucking pond. But it was like the first thing when I was typing those keywords into the Library of Congress, that was the first thing I came across. So then I had to do the big search of school bus crash, which, if you could imagine 300 years in the Library of Congress, yeah, there were fucking a lot of pages with a lot of articles. So the first 2 pages of articles I came across, I found 2 different articles that were advertising an upcoming town hall meeting, talking about a bridge reconstruction after a school bus of children had died on said bridge. Then I found one from LA, which was close to us, which, let me pull this up. Hold up. I gotta get my shit up. Yeah, okay, that'll be right. Let me share screen. The fuck is my shit, dude? The hell is this thing? Let me move you guys out of the way there. Still move you guys out of the way there. Okay. I'm hoping this is the one. No, that's Kinston. Okay, let me stop that share. Well, basically, I found a article from LA where a school bus crashed, and it was in LA, and I think it was from 1957, and it goes on to talk about how 3 kids died and 24 were injured. And I know this is like some dark shit to try to research in the old Library of Congress, but
The government's not watching you.
the government's been watching me. So, well, I'm sure I could have spent hours longer searching the 18 pages of 24 articles per page. Like, I only had 5 hours till the podcast. So early in the week, I had asked some people on Facebook if they had had the same story. I went on every Facebook group. I know both of you guys saw it. Did either of you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Debra already got a yes.
I might have. I don't know, honestly. I saw some post you did, but I really didn't have time to scroll through and see what the hell they actually said.
So I was gonna fucking do the whole mall thing and ask people, but my teeth are all fucked up. So first up, we have Diana Soul. There's hers is at the old Gold Camp Road tunnels. And then Lane Brianna has the same story in Johnson City, Tennessee. And I mean, this is like 20 fucking Facebook groups. Bossy Babies. Her version is at Geist Bridge in Union, South Carolina. Daryl Goldsmith's is in Crybaby Bridge. Amanda Gray has the same story in Ocala, Florida.
Oh, there's crybaby bridges everywhere.
Well, just the story of the children pushing the bridge over, or the car over the fucking train tracks, is fucking everywhere, dude.
Yeah, I
And
remember
then,
that. Yeah.
no, go for it.
No, I remember the kids or the over the train tracks. I've heard that a million times, a million different ways.
Do you guys have that legend? I know Jeremy doesn't, because he has no urban legends in his town, but
We had no, well, I mean, there was train tracks in Kingston, but there's no urban legends around them, but a lot of people got hit by trains there. I don't know why. But
did you have that same story, Debra?
Oh, 100%. And then people would say you can shut your car off and you'll get pushed. And they were saying it's something to do with like magnetism or whatever, like pulling the car, and I don't know, there's all kinds, but yeah, I've heard that so much.
Did you have the whole baby powder and see the little kids' handprints? Okay.
Yep.
So my local town lore is not
It spreads all the way to Canada.
anything special. Frank Rodriguez actually said that he saw the story on the news where they tested the car and they put the baby powder on the back of the car and it pushed it over the train tracks. He did not give me any like dates or the TV show, the news channel, or the year or anything.
So here would be something. Why doesn't a paranormal team, when they have those cameras that show the kind of stick figures of spirits and whatever, why hasn't anyone ever kind of set that experiment up and caught it on camera?
Because they all know it's fucking bullshit, I think.
I almost guarantee they did that in Mythbusters.
There were quite a few paranormal shows that actually did this. So Sarah Collins says she thinks every rural town in America with train tracks crossing the road on a hill has that same story. She tried it. It was bullshit. But then Valda Hensley, on the other hand, said when she did it in Anchorage, Alaska, it did work, and it was one of the strangest experiences she's ever had in her life. But then we go to San Antonio, Texas, where Maria Sharp Bays, Diane Acuna, and Tom Reef, all from different Facebook groups, say that story is in their town of San Antonio. And then Clay Leanne Birmingham claims that the story originated in San Antonio. So, I mean, maybe it did. I had 4 people from 4 different Facebook groups say that it originated there. But then I had this lady, Anna Dobrik from Serbia, say that the story dates back centuries. She said that her grandparents told her parents, which told her that same fucking story, and her whole town has been like war torn since, prehistory. And you could imagine Serbia. So the only way to find out the truth was asking ChatGTP. And I asked ChatGTP, where did the story of the school bus crashing into the railroad, or where did the story of a school bus crashing on the railroad tracks, and now if you park on the track and put baby powder on your trunk, ghost children will push your car across the tracks, leaving little handprints, originate from? And this was the shortest answer I have ever gotten from ChatGTP. It said, the origin of the story is not clear. It's likely a urban legend or a hoax that has been circulating for many years. End of ChatGTP.
ChatGTP needs to do some homework.
So yeah, I mean that shit didn't amount to much. But then when I was done researching all this shit, I was on to my second story. And then I found out in 1938, 22 students and the bus driver were killed when they were blindsided by a train going to the Jordan High School, which is like a couple miles away from my house, on a foggy day. And the story lives on here in Utah. So I went from LA County, where the same story was haunted ponds, and now it's on that Route 666 nonsense. But there's actual, like, historical proof that 22 students and a bus driver fucking died being hit by a train. And you said the same story fucking in your town. So
yeah, I've heard that story.
I just want to know where the fuck the thing originated from, because I know it didn't happen in old Lancaster, California, USA. But the last thing I looked up is, you guys probably have a vanishing hitchhiker.
I mean, it's a worldwide story everybody's heard. I mean, or the reverse of it if you want to go with Large March, but
so everyone's got one, and I have kind of kind of narrowed it down. So ours is called the Hermit of American Fork Canyon. And I've actually been camping up there. It sucks. There's no phone signal. There's not like a big river. You're catching little trout, whatever. But there are two stories around this hermit. The first story centers around people camping, and then they hear something rummaging through their fucking camp shit, and they think it's like, you know, a raccoon or a bear or whatever the fuck. And then they go out and look, and they're following the dude around. And then next thing you know, they see this dude dressed in 1800s clothes, and he just disappears out of nowhere. But the other story is that they see a hitchhiker, and they pick the dude up, and they're talking to him. And then by the time they ask him where he's going, he just fucking like vanishes out of the back seat. So I looked into that, and that same story is coming out of Southern Arizona, California, Hawaii, probably every other fucking country or state in the country. Debra, have you heard of it? I'm pretty sure people in Serbia have heard of it. Like, it's all a bunch of bullshit. But the one good thing about the vanishing hitchhiker is this dude just sort of like disappears. You know what I'm saying? So he's not doing any bad shit to you, but he does have the same fucking storyline as the Lady in White. And everyone's heard of the Lady in White storyline. So that's actually what it's that's what it's related to. And when you look into the origin of either stories, it comes to the Lady in White dating back to 1602. So there were two priests one priest and two farmhands on their way back from the Candlemas. As they were going home, they saw a maid on the side of the road. And eventually they got to an inn, and they stopped to eat. But before they went home, they stopped to eat. At the inn, the innkeeper brought them beer first, then acorns. Then the innkeeper brought them a jar of blood. The horrified guests looked to the maid, and she told them, "This is the future. So there's going to be plenty of grain, and there's going to be plenty of fruit. But pestilence and war is coming upon you." So that is like the whole legend of this hitchhiker or Lady in White comes from this story from 1602. And yeah, ours actually comes from this dude Ed Hines, who the dude he was trying to pick up this chick. The chick's parents told him that he wasn't rich enough for her, so he went out west during the gold rush from New York. And you know, he did okay during the hype of the gold rush, but then fucking the mines actually shut down. So this dude ended up living out in American Fork Canyon. And yeah, he's fucking stayed there, and then he got sick and died. And kids have just been telling the story from this dude that was doing this back in the 1800s to the early 1900s.
So he's the hitchhiker now?
He's the hitchhiker now, yeah, but he was just some minor dude. He was like the witch, right? Like, you had this witch that lived alone, some old lady that lived alone in her house. She had already lived her life. And that's basically what this dude was. He was just like, I've already wasted my life. I'm going to live in these mountains no matter what. And we're still talking about it today. There are plenty of stories on the old YouTubes.
That reminds me, wasn't there like some old movie or Tales from the Crypt or something like that, where the lady, she's cheating on her husband and she runs over somebody and then she just keeps going, and then to keep seeing him and he's hitchhiking, like everywhere she stops, this guy she's ran over is trying to catch a ride with her. Do you guys remember that?
I
No,
remember Tales of the Crypt, dude. That was like the best TV show.
Yeah, it was something like that. But yeah, it was that reminds me of that. Like everywhere she went, this guy's trying to catch a ride still, and she's already ran him over.
I mean that's basically the storyline for I Know What You Did Last Summer, but
Right.
And
It was probably taken from that, yeah.
dates back to 1602. So like, but did I tell you guys the one about the NASA? They were
yes,
going
Scott.
up-
I
okay.
think that's why the government's watching you. You gotta quit telling that story.
31 times the speed of sound coming back. Urban legend. I'm just look
I was
up the
gonna
Blue
talk about
Angels.
Cook Island because that's like supposedly a legend. Everybody falls to misfortune, but I mean, I don't know, those fools that have been trying to find the treasure now for years and years.
Well, we know the people that went to Epstein Island, they don't have that same misfortune.
Oh
Because
god, there's
they're
gonna be some horror legends around that, I'm sure too.
Well, is that all your urban legends, Scott, or do you got any more?
that is all of my urban legends.
Well, what do you want to do next week then, Scott? It's your turn.
Yeah, you're up.
Okay, I want to show you guys a picture. Hold up, let me get rid of this.
I swear to God, it's Apollo 13.
It's my wiener.
Oh,
All right, I'll get the magnifying glass.
Okay. Yeah, get it out. Maybe some binoculars. Here we go. I don't know what the fuck. Oh, that was. So who do you guys think that is?
Your son? Or you 20 years ago?
This dude is somebody my friend Kayla took a picture of not that long ago. He's even got a fucking lazy eye, just like me.
so you're
Look at that.
doppelganger? Or...
Doppelgangers. Next week is doppelgangers.
Oh, interesting.
I
Okay.
had a feeling. That sounds good to me.
We'll each try to find ours. You found yours already, Scott, but
Well, I fucking had a doppelganger when I was a teenager. People would confuse me with someone all the fucking time. So it'll be interesting.
I like it. Yeah, that's an interesting topic, actually. Yeah.
I think personally, either him or I are some like fucking Irish cryptid that's about to steal somebody's soul myself.
Or timeline jumpers.
I'm drunk.
Or
Yeah.
your parents have some explaining to do. There's always that.
He has some
possibility.
explaining to do.
Yeah, okay, that's cool. I'm down with that. That's interesting.
Oh, shit. Okay, well, say goodbye, everybody.
Good night. Good night.